Hello everyone, I'm teacher Winnie. Today we'll discuss on Physics SPM Trial 2022 for Pahang paper 1. Okay, so for questions 1 is come from a measurement. So which of the following is not a base unit in the SI unit system? So as you all know, physical quantity can be classified as base quantity and derived quantity. And there is 7 base quantity, which is mass, length, time, electric current, temperatures, luminous intensity, and also amount of substance. So their respective SI unit will be mass is kilogram, length is meter, time is second, current is ampere, temperature is Kelvin, luminous intensity is candela, while this amount of substance is mole. So based on the option given, time for second, correct? And then candela is actually luminous intensity. Okay, C is not the correct answer. And this is what they required, not a base unit. Okay, the base unit for length should be meter. So that's why C is the answer. And D mole is actually the SI unit for amount of substance. Okay, moving on. Question 2. Question 2, diagram 1 show a graph y against x. What is the relationship of a graph above? So I believe that every time when you have relationship questions, graph question for physics, we always more focus on the straight line graph. If the graph were to cut through 0 and it is a straight line, of course, you should know the answer should be directly proportional. So the answer should be A. Now, what if there is a graph that have for the other option? So for y inversely proportional, then you will have a graph that look like this shape. Okay. If it is decreases linearly, then it's a straight line going downhill. Increases linearly is a straight line going uphill, but not cut through 0. Right? So in case you have other graph, you also know that this is the relationship that you should give. Every time if they show your graph, then you should give this type of statement. Now, do not give the answer as increase, provided they are curved line, like example, you have this, so then you say when x increases, y increases. But normally for physics, they normally ask the relationship for graph in terms on straight line. Okay, question 3 is from 4 topic chapter 2 for motion graph. Diagram 2 show the graph of velocity against time for a movement of a car. So this is a velocity time graph. So as you all know, every time when you deal with the you solve problem involving graph, first you need to identify, is this velocity time graph or this is displacement time graph? And then next thing, you should link with gradient, right? So for this case, gradient of velocity time graph is what? You have velocity divided by time. So it's actually the quantity which is acceleration. So if they were to ask you find the gradient, then you know that it is referred to acceleration. And you can also find another quantity, which is displacement. And how do you get the displacement? It's actually area under the graph for velocity time graph. Okay, so this is referred to distance or displacement. Okay, now we see what the question required. Which statement about the graph is wrong? So if t is 0 second, v is 10 meter per second. So how you see? Okay, so when it is 10, when it's 0 t, then v is 10. So it's correct statement. B, the gradient of the graph is 0.5 meter per second. Okay, so how do you get the gradient? You actually using the y divided by x, right? Okay, the difference in y divided by x. So the difference in y is actually 10. Then the x is actually 20. Okay, in terms of magnitude value, it is correct 0.5. But I just mentioned the gradient is actually referred to what? Acceleration. So the unit is supposed to be what? Meter per second for the y-axis, and then x-axis is second. So if per one more time, by right, the unit for acceleration is meter per second. So because of this, so basically B is the wrong answer. But they want which one which is wrong, so the answer we already found it. But we also go through C and D, same during exam, you all supposedly go through all the options, because sometimes you may overlook. Maybe B is correct, but not the most accurate answer, right? So we also go through C and D. C, V is increases linearly to T. So just now the previous question, teacher already explained all. Increases linearly means straight line, but not cut through 0, but cut through any part on y-axis or x-axis. And then lastly, D, how do you get the equation of graph V equals to 0.5 T times 10? So if let's say other objective question asks you all to find the relationship or give the equation for the graph. So generally, how do you solve these questions? You actually know that this is a straight line equation. So you have y equals to mx plus t. So your y-axis is actually v, and then your x-axis is actually t. Gradient is what we calculated just now, which is 0.5, while c is y-intercept. So in this case, your y-intercept is 10. So that's why this equation is also correct. Okay, so the question required the wrong answer. That's why the answer is B. Okay, chapter 2.3 regarding free fall motion. Diagram 3 show two durian that fall at the same time, but different in size. Why does the big durian reach the ground first? Okay, so if you know the concept regarding free fall means object fall due to what? Due to gravitational force only. By right, regardless of the mass, all the objects supposedly to fall to the ground at the same time. Let's say this is happen in where? In vacuum, where there is no air resistance at all, right? So if you were to go through each questions, okay, A, the force of gravity act on the small durian is greater. This one confirmed wrong lah, because greater mass by right have greater force of gravitation. Force of gravitation, another idea that's similar, which is what we call is the weight of an object as well, right? So by right, the weight of durian should be greater, right? So the force acting on the durian, which have bigger masses, should be greater as well. Okay, so B seems to be correct. But if you go through C and D, you will notice you will have a better answer. Okay, C, the force of gravity acted on the small durian is better to overcome the air resistance compared to the force of gravity acted on the big durian, also wrong. Okay, if you're able to overcome the air resistance, normally it's more easier for you to capture if let's say you have a piece of paper with the one paper which is already crumpled, right? So even though they may have the same weight, right? But then because the surface area, right? So that's why they cover, the area is bigger, so they encounter greater air resistance, which is opposite direction than the weight. Okay, so that's why bigger area, bigger mass of durian, bigger in size as well, they basically overcome the air resistance better compared to the one which is the small one. So among A, B, and C and D, right? The best answer is supposed to be D lah. B seems not really wrong, but then if based on the scenario here, D is the best answer. Best answer. Like I mentioned, if let's say free fall occurs, whereby they only exerted by gravitational force by right, regardless of their mass, they're supposed to fall at the same time. Okay, next one. Newton's first law of motion states that an object will remain at rest or move with a constant velocity if there is no external force acting on it. What is the concept for this statement? Okay, so it is kind of common, right? It's actually the concept of inertia. Now, inertia have another definition as well, which is the tendency of an object to resist change in motion. Or in simple, like what you see on the statement here, if the object have the they want to remain at rest, they will be at the state of rest. If they are moving, they will continue move in a straight line. Yeah, so this is the idea of inertia. And normally we will relate inertia with mass. The greater the mass, the higher the inertia. Moving on, number 6. A lorry of mass about 2,000 kg move with velocity of 22 meters per second. So what is the momentum of the lorry? So first thing you need to know what is momentum. Momentum is the product of mass and also velocity. In exam, you can write these as definitions in the equation form, but full terms. So in this context, your mass is 2,000 and then your velocity is 22. When you press calculator, you supposingly to get the final answer as C, 44,000. Okay, of course, Newton second is another unit for momentum as well. Okay, if you base on the quantity itself, the unit that more commonly you're used will be kilogram and also meter per second, right? Now, why Newton second is also another unit? As you all know, Newton is actually from kg ms -2. So if you want it to become -1, you times the second, right? So this whole thing is Newton. So that's why this another unit, like in case they ask you all relating to the unit. Okay, so you not panic. So if they are Newton second, that means they are equal to kg ms -1. Okay, so of course, if the questions like they give you gram or they give you centimeter per second, you have to change to SI unit, like gram to kg. Like this question, they didn't test you on converting the unit, so it's kind of direct lah. Question 7. Diagram 4.1 shows a trolley without load being pushed with force F, and diagram 4.2 shows the trolley with load being pushed with the same force. What happened to the acceleration of trolley in diagram 4.2? Okay, based on this idea, okay, this concept is related to the Newton's second law of motion, which is F equals to MA or F net, like I normally tell students, so that you all always remember this force is referred to the resultant force itself. So based on what they stated here, they are using the same force. That means the context of force is actually constant. And then they want you all to come out with the conclusion. You see what is so different between 4.1 and 4.2 is this one no load. That means the mass is less, right? And then this one with load. So when it is with load, the mass is greater. If you were to rearrange the formula, you will notice that what is the relationship between mass and acceleration? Mass will be equals to F over A, and mass and acceleration is inversely proportional, right? Yeah, so which means when your mass is greater, you should have smaller acceleration. So they're supposed to be decreases. Number 8, diagram 5 shows a ball with mass of 0.8 kg being dropped from a flat house. At the moment before touching the ground, the velocity of the ball is 12 meters per second. And then the box stops 2 seconds after touching the ground. What is the magnitude of impulsive force acted on the ball? Again, to solve this type of question, you really need to know what is the definitions and then what is the formula involved. So what is impulsive force? Impulsive force is rate of change of momentum. Change in momentum is final momentum minus initial momentum divided by time. Okay, so the given questions, 0.8 is referred to mass. Okay, so by right, when you drop any object initially, you should have 0 velocity, right? Just before it touched the ground, they have the maximum velocity lah, and the time is 2 seconds. So you have all the quantity given, you just sub accordingly, 0.8 times with 12 minus 0 because U is 0, then divide by 2, and finally you're supposed to have your answer as 4.8 Newton. And Newton is the same as kgms -2 lah. Yeah, sometimes the answer given, they may have a different unit, okay? But you should know that Newton is also the same as kgms -2. Okay, next one. An astronaut who wears an astronaut suit while exploring on the moon as in figure 6. The mass of astronaut suit on Earth is 60.25 kg. Calculate the strength of the gravitational field on the moon if the strength of the gravitational field on the moon is 1/6 of the strength of Earth gravitational field. Okay, so the strength of the gravitational field is equivalent to the idea of weight lah, okay? But they have slight difference is whenever we talk about weight, that's mean it is related to G, mg, right? But when we talk about this strength of gravitational field, we always refer to this ma, but it is similar idea lah. End result, we will still relate it with G, okay? So simple, I use the term weight instead of strength of gravitational field. So this is the one that they stated, the weight of this moon, the soot in the moon is actually 1/6 of the weight on Earth. Okay, so what you need to do is now they want you to find the weight of this soot on the moon, right? So the weight is mg as well. So when the mass is 60.25, while g is 9.81, and when you press calculator, you will get your answer as 98.51. Okay, so be careful. Bear in mind, new syllables, the value of G is 9.81, provided, let's say they maybe when they involve a forces equilibrium, they want it to be a whole number. So maybe they may ask you all to use the value 10. But by right, you're supposed to use 9.81. If they didn't mention anything in the questions, that means it's standard. G is 9.81 meter per second. Okay. Okay, next question 10 is from gravitations. Newton's law of gravitation is formulated as the formula below. What will happen for R if the gravitational force between the body increases? Okay, so they want to ask you what is the effect of this force if what is the effect of the R if the force increases? Now, based on the formula, force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two objects. So that means when the force increases, the distance between the two objects generally is closer. They're coming closer or they are decreasing. Next one. The escape velocity of a spaceship from the Earth depends on, okay, so first you all need to know the formula that involve for escape velocity. So escape velocity is V equals to square root of 2gm over R, where G is the gravitational constant, M is normally referred to mass of Earth or mass of Sun, okay, but in the context, they always because object escape from Earth, right? So it's mass of Earth lah. Then this R is they can be depends on where is your object. If your object is on the surface of Earth, that means the R is the radius of Earth itself lah. But then if your object is further, so you need to involve the radius plus the height. Sometimes this R can be radius of Earth plus the height of the spaceship or any satellite which is want to escape from the Earth. Okay, so let's look at the option. Size of the spaceships. Size is not the correct answer. Okay, then mass of spaceship. As you can see, the formula is there any small m which is referred to mass of spaceship, so cannot as well. C, total mass of spaceship and Earth. We didn't take into account of the mass of spaceship. So that means C is also not accurate. D, the height of the spaceship from the Earth's surface, yes. Yeah. So if they are getting further, that means the escape velocity is also smaller also lah, further from the Earth. So the answer is D. 12. What is the concept used in measuring the temperature of coffee using thermometer? As you all know, we want to know what is the temperature of the coffee. That means at the end, the thermometer must have the same temperature as the coffee. So this is the idea of thermal equilibrium. What is the meaning of thermal equilibrium when two objects are in contact, in thermal contact, we'll have what? We'll have same temperature and also no net flow of heat, okay? No net flow of heat between the two objects. Okay, so move on. 13. Diagram 7 show the heating curve of a solid material. At level Y, the heat absorbed by the object is, okay, so whenever you see heating curve or cooling curve, you first label what is the process that involved or what is the state of the object. So they say this one start from solid. That means this is solid, this is liquid. If they were to have another graph uphill, then it's gas lah. That means the coexist part, this part will be solid plus liquid, while this part is liquid and gas. So the red one, the solid and liquid idea, those heat that absorb is actually a specific capacity, but then the part that there is no change in temperature is the heat that absorb is called latent heat. So if it is coexist for solid and liquid idea, then it's latent heat of fusion. If it is latent heat of vaporization, then it will be over here. Okay, so the answer is C lah. 14. A fixed mass of gas at constant pressure have volume of 3V at temperature of 45 degrees Celsius. If the gas expands to volume of 6V, what is the temperature of the gas now? So, of course, this involves one of the gas law out of the three gas law, right? So whenever we talk about gas law, I always tell students this triangle is very important. You draw this triangle, inverted triangle, and then you have PV and T. So now our context is relating to volume and also temperature, V and T. So we are actually doing for Charles' law. And if you look at the arrangement, you have V on top, T below. That means our formula will be V1 over T1 equals to V2 over T2. Yeah. So now you know this is the formula that you need. Then again, you find the quantity given here. So V1, assuming it's 3V over here, right? Okay, when the temperature T1 now, whenever you all use this formula, the capital T is always referred to the temperature in Kelvin. We call it as absolute temperature, Okay, so when you calculate even though the questions give you in degrees Celsius, somehow you need to change it to Kelvin, okay? So normally, not to confuse between T and theta, degrees Celsius we normally label as theta, and then the T is refer the temperature in Kelvin. Okay, now how do you change the degrees Celsius into Kelvin? Or you must plus 273. So your T1 will be 273 plus 45 lah. Okay, then you will have this part as 318. Okay, then what is your V2? So they say the gas now expand to 6V. So what's supposed to be your T2? Actually, they want the theta in degrees Celsius as well. But we can find the answer in T2, but your answer is in Kelvin first lah, Ken? Okay, so now we sub first, 3V over 318 equals to 6V over T2. And we want the idea of T2. So sometimes if the unknown is bottom, some students don't like math, you all will confuse a bit. So what you do, you bring this T2 up lah. Okay, you bring up, you like interchange. See, then the 3V go down. So that means 6V divided by 3V. Then you see 318 is bottom. So when we bring up, it's actually multiply with 318, can? Then it's become 2 times 318 lah. Then you will get 636, and teacher say T is referred to the temperature in Kelvin, right? But the option given is in degrees Celsius, notice. So when you change degrees Celsius to become Kelvin, you plus 273. So now from Kelvin to degrees Celsius, what you do? You minus. So that's why theta 2 is actually 636 minus 273, and you get 363 degrees Celsius. Okay, so whether it's Charles' law or Gay-Lussac law, bear in mind, whenever you apply this formula, that means the relationship between the two quantities is directly proportional. And this formula is only applicable when the temperature is in Kelvin. So like what I show you here, even though the question is in degrees Celsius, somehow you have to change to Kelvin, you solve and then you minus, you get back in degrees Celsius back. If you didn't do this step, you straight away sub the degrees Celsius, then whatever you obtain will be wrong. Number 15, which graph show the correct relationship between displacement and time graph for this oscillating system? So as you all can see, you are actually putting the metal ball inside the water or liquid, okay? So when this ball trying to extend, okay, they will encounter water resistance, right? So what happened to the oscillation after some time? They actually stop, right? That means their amplitude is getting decreases first. So the y-axis displacement is also referred to the idea of amplitude. Okay, yeah. So first you will see that the peak getting smaller and smaller. The displacement decreases. Okay, but next thing that you all need to be aware also, the period shouldn't be changed. The period, the time taken for one complete oscillation should be constant. So among A, B, C, D, the best answer is A. B, memang wrong. C, because they didn't decrease in amplitude, also wrong. D is because of the period idea. Notice they become shorter already. Wrong. Because you oscillate with the same number of oscillation in 1 second. Yeah. Okay, number 16. A sound wave reflected from a concrete wall. Which comparison is correct about the reflected sound wave and the incident sound wave? Okay, so for this idea, you're supposed to know that after the phenomenon, so under wave, you have 4 phenomena of wave: reflection, refraction, diffraction, and also interference. So they really like to ask for the first 3 phenomena after the wave being reflected or refracted or diffracted, what quantity is changes and no changes. Okay, so for you all to recall back, so generally frequency, wavelength, speed doesn't change. They only change in direction. So now we look at the option of the answer. The speed and is same, correct lah. Now then B, they say the frequency is less, wrong, supposed to be same as well ma. Then the angle of incident is more than the of reflected rate, also wrong. By right, they're supposed to be equal, law of reflections. Then the wavelength should shorter, also wrong. They should be equal. So that's why the answer is A, because they want the correct comparison. Okay, number 17. Diagram shows a water wave propagating through a small gap. Which property of diffracted wave is correct? So like I mentioned just now also, you all need to know after diffractions, right, what will happen. Okay, so like this case, they're kind of similar with the concept of reflections. Frequency, wavelength, speed, no change, only change in direction. And one more, which is amplitude. Because when the wave pass through a gap, the meaning of diffraction, the spreading out of wave, when they pass through a gap or around an obstacle. So by right, they're supposed to be reduced in amplitude. The energy level decreases. Energy decreases, causing amplitude to be decreases. Okay, so same thing. The answer is C. A, speed decreases cannot. It's supposed to be same. Frequency also same, right? Wavelength also same. Number 18, diagram 10A show an operator setup of Young double slit experiment, and 10.B show the interference pattern produced on the screen by 3 different monochromatic light source X, Y, and Z. Okay, so what are the color of X, Y, and Z? Okay, so under this topic, interference of wave, there is one main formula, which is what? Lambda equals to A X over D. Okay, where lambda is wavelength. Now, what is A? A is actually the distance between the 2 coherent sources. Like this case is the distance between these 2 gaps, 2 little gaps. small hole, right? So this is A. Then what is D? D is from the screen to the source to the screen, D. Then what is X? X is actually the distance between two consecutive fringes. So if you look at this formula itself, you should know that the relationship between wavelength and the X, they are directly proportional. That means if your wavelength increases, X also increases. So under the idea of light, right? Okay, you have this 7 colors, which is R, or I will say Roy give birth in Vietnam. ROYGBIV, where R is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So red will have the longest wavelength, violet will have the shortest wavelength. That means Z, okay, biggest one, the gap, right? That means it's supposed to refer to the biggest, either red or yellow, they are considered kind of big. So it seems like red memang longest. Then the smallest here, X. So you see which color is toward the right side, blue, indigo, violet. So blue one, okay? Yeah, red wrong already. So B and C confirm wrong. Green, then you have to see other option as well. Okay, so since we are taking this red, and then yellow, and then blue, so this will be the correct answer, D. Okay, red longest wavelength, that's why the gap is bigger, Z. Then followed by yellow, the blue will be the shortest one. 19, which light phenomenon explain this situation? So as you can see, this is a magnifying glass, right? Diagram 11 below shows the appearance of the word audit as seen through a magnifying lens, right? They already say also lenses, when the ray pass through any transparent material, they will actually bend, right? So this concept is called refractions. Next one, okay. The critical angle of the glass air boundary is C. So which diagram show the correct path of the light ray? So first you need to know what is a so-called critical angle. Okay, so critical angle is actually is an incident angle. It's actually incident angle when refracted angle is equals to 90 degree. Okay. So your incident ray must be from a denser medium to less than medium. So this idea is under the total internal reflection as well. Okay, so for you to recall back the concept of total internal reflections, is stated one. Okay, they have two conditions. First, light must travel from denser to less than medium. The angle of incident must more than critical angle. So how do we get the critical angle? We get a critical angle the moment the refracted angle reach 90. Okay, so the answer is C lah. Okay, both criteria for the one denser to less than is fulfill one. It's just that the angle, you see, this one they are not 90. This one memang wrong lah. Then this one is reflect inside already, so it's also not related as well. Okay, next one. A constant force of 35 Newton act on the block placed on a rough surface as shown in diagram 12. If the friction is 5 Newton, the block will move with. So as you know, this idea is related to resultant force, Newton's second law of motion. So we have F net equals to ma. So the mass of the object never reduce or increase. So we say that the mass is constant. Then, is there any net force? If there is net force, there will be an acceleration. So what is the net force for this context? So sometimes students don't know the meaning of net force. They think the forward force, the engine thrust, everything is just the same. No. Okay, resultant force is a force where after you combine two or more forces, like in this context, you have frictional Fr with the pushing force, Right, so the net force in this case, you see they have a different arrow. So the net force in this case is supposed to be 35 minus 5 lah. You have 30 Newton. Now, since this force is assuming to be constant as well, they will keep on have this 30 Newton applying on this whole process. There is a net force, that's why there is an acceleration, and we also will assume this acceleration is constant as well. If it is constant values, that means your net force is 0. If increasing, decreasing, provided your mass changes or the force applied, you keep on increasing. Like, oh, you push with 35, then later on you add 40, you add 45, you add 50. So then they will become increasing acceleration. Similarly, decreasing acceleration, your surface is getting rougher and rougher. Something like that, okay? 22. Diagram 13 shows Vincent pulling a trolley with a rope which make an angles 55 degree with the horizontal. Calculate the horizontal force. Okay, so of course, first you need to label the force that act on the rope. So it's upward lah, the tensions, right? Okay, you can always resolve the force into two components, which is the x component and also y component, fx and fy. So they want you to calculate what is fx lah, horizontal force, horizontal component. Okay, so I will tell students, if can, you all try to relocate the angle, this 55 degree again. So this look like a Z, right? So the 55 degree is here. Okay, then you only focus either is cos or sine. Of course, it's actually come from trigo. What you do is you bring this Fy, then it becomes a right angle triangle, then you use Socato, and then you can find the relationship out. Okay, but if you are my student all the time, I'm actually mentioned that if you notice that this angle is touching the Fx component, right? So Fx will be cos. That means you will have T cos 55. Automatically, Fy will be T sine 55. We always just look at one angle easier lah, if you know this idea lah. Okay, but if you confuse or you forgot, you can always do like what I showed you just now. You make it into a right angle triangle, and then you use Socato, trigonometry. You can get the relationship between T, Fx, and the angle up. And then it's supposed to be cos lah. Okay, so therefore, you just sub 10,000 cos 55, and when you press calculator, your end result will be 575,735.76. So round off is about 5736 Newton. A. 23. About the idea of forces in equilibrium, and normally they want you all to show the triangle of forces. So which diagram represent the force acting on the picture correctly? Okay, so I will tell students first, you label the direction of the tension. The arrow of this tension is always what? Away from the object. Away from the object. That means upward like this, okay? And then you have this one. And then lastly, you will have your weight memang straight downwards. Okay, so actually, how do you draw triangle of forces? You actually rearrange all these three given force again, but you cannot change the direction of arrow. Like my weight is downward, you cannot change it to become upward, like what you see in the option here. Memang wrong. So you see now, I try to move, I move my weight up here. Then this one, I move up. Notice or not, you actually have similar triangle as the given option, understand? So notice my T1 memang is this way. This one wrong already lor. Okay. Then weight is down, correct? E2 is up again. Now, if the object is in the state of equilibrium, you will notice that all these three arrows will be in the same direction. If let's say you have other questions, you have also the same triangle similar like that. But then you will notice, why one of the arrow is opposite direction? That means the object is not at rest or not hanging. There is actually a net force. That means at the end, the object will move in this direction with a net force and with an acceleration, right? This one is under resultant force idea lah. So you all just now get the answer already. It's D. Okay, then move on. 24. Diagram 15 shows a cat placed on 3 different arrangements of spring J, K, and L, consisting identical springs. Which comparisons correct about the extension of J, K, and L? Okay, now as you all know, when you arrange the spring in the series, so this is in the series, which means one after another. So that means they are subjected to the same load, which means individually do their own work, okay? They will extend accordingly. But then if you were to arrange the spring in parallel, that means they will share the load. Their extension will automatically become less. So of course, based on JKL, you look at the diagram, K cannot tipu one, right? The extension is the most, notice, but then JK is a bit hard, if you just look at the diagram lah. Okay, but then this one you share, this one also you share. Then this one you not sharing one. So of course, this one is slightly longer. So that's why the extension K will be longer compared to J compared to L. So you see which one is the correct option, which is B, right? K, J, and L. 25. Diagram 16 shows the cross-section of a dam. Why does the thickness of the dam increase towards the base of the dam? Okay, as you all know that this idea is related to liquid pressure, okay, and you have a formula for liquid pressure, which is H rho G, but in this context, this H is referred to depth. So the deeper the depth, they will experience the greater liquid pressure. All these three quantities is directly proportional to liquid pressure. That means higher density also higher liquid pressure. Also, the best answer, more water can store, no lah. You want more, then you bigger dam. Water pressure increases with depth. Yes, B. Less material is needed to build the dam. You already make it thicker. Of course, you need more material. Density of water increases towards the base of the dam because you won't change the density of the liquid, right? Okay, so the answer is B. 26. Diagram 17 show the height of mercury column in a mercury barometer is H when the atmospheric pressure is 100,000 Pascal. So normally under the topic for atmospheric pressure or gas pressure, we have more than the unit where we use Pascal. Sometimes we will also use like, if you notice, cm mercury or meter water, all this. All this is also refer to the idea of pressure, but in different contexts, like for water dam, normally they will use meter mercury law. Meter water law. For this cm mercury normally is like the blood pressure, all this, they will use a millimeter mercury one. Okay, so how do we construct a mercury barometer? For information, you have a tube, empty tube, and then you fill in some mercury, and very quick you invert this liquid into a dish, and then you wait for a while. They will slowly raise or they will drop, and then until certain length they will just stop. Then you go and measure, commonly you will get 76 cm one. Okay, so that's why a lot of time you notice question will give like the atmospheric pressure is 76 cm mercury is standard lah. Now they already say this atmospheric pressure is also 100,000 Pascal. You can actually change to cm mercury to this Pascal one. What formula you use H rho G, but this H must be in meter. Now the length of the tube lah. You change it if you really want to do, then 0.76. Then density is the density of the liquid you use like this. One density of mercury is this one, 9.81. You by right supposed to get about close to 1 × 10⁵ Pascal. Okay, so now they don't want this atmospheric pressure, they want the pressure acting on P. So again, you need to know the length here. The length here. Now, they give you the length for the bottom part from surface to point P is 1/5 H. So by right, this length is how many H? 4/5 H. Hence, the pressure now is equals to 100,000 times 4/5. Because your height is 4/5 H. Yeah, then you're supposed to get 80,000 Pascal. Next one. So this is what I just now explained. When you want to know the pressure of X, you use the length of X1. So that's why we use 4/5 H instead of 1/5 H. Okay, next. Diagram 18 shows a simple pressure gauge connected to a teaser funnel, and the teaser funnel is immersed in a vessel containing water at height h from the bottom of the vessel. What happened to the reading of the pressure gauge if the funnel is lower into the water? So when the funnel is lower into the water, that means the depth increases, right? If that increases, what happened to the pressure? Increases. So pressure gauge is to measure pressure. That's why your pressure will be increases. So this is how you get the answer. Okay, now we will be in the idea of this atmospheric pressure. Which of the following is the effect of the atmospheric pressure on human at high altitude? So you will have a better understanding regarding this if let's say you ever climb mountains lah, all right? Or at least you go Genting before, so you have some idea. So generally when you are at higher altitude, that means higher height, means getting away from the earth lah, you will supposedly have lower atmospheric pressure. So when this happen, right, okay, so based on what your textbook also got explained about this, because of the thin air, therefore the atmospheric pressure become lower. So once they become lower, you will tends to want to breathe more, okay, increase the rate of breathing. Then lower absorption of oxygen in the lung because the air getting dimmer, okay, the amount of oxygen is also lesser. Then you have increase in the rate of metabolic rate, you loss of appetite, you dehydrate, and you are not able to think clearly. So now they want you to give the effect where you are at high altitude lah. So your appetite increase, wrong, right? Decreases ma. Respiratory rate, that's mean breathing more lah. It's B. The mind become clearer, wrong also. You're not really able to think properly. Then increases the absorption or cannot also. It's supposed to be lower. Yeah, so the answer is B. 29. The diagram 19 shows a simple hydraulic system. A force of magnitude F is required to be applied to the piston P to lift a car of weight W, which is supported by piston Q. Which of the following statement is correct? They want the correct one. Now, reminded also, when you all do these objective questions, you always must be careful whether they want correct or wrong. A lot of times students wrong is because you do too fast. You didn't finish the question. Sometimes they want incorrect. Sometimes they want wrong. Sometimes they want correct. So you read carefully, or else you read the first option, then you will choose. Or it's good that I will say, make sure, if possible, read all the 4 options. Right, so now they want the correct one. Now, of course, this hydraulic system is related to what principle? Is related to Pascal principle. So let's recall back the concept first. Pascal principle state that when pressure is applied to an enclosed fluid, the pressure will be transmitted equally throughout the whole fluid. Okay, so in this case, you're supposed to have the concept whereby pressure is the same. So P1 equals to P2. And here we will have F1 over A1 equals to F2 over A2. And we tell students simple idea why this Pascal principle is important in the hydraulic system is when the area is small, then the force applied also small. Small area, small force, big area, big force. That's why you apply a small force, you can lift a big load in Q. So F is greater than W, wrong, okay? It's the other way around. F is less. Then next, the distance move is the same, okay? So this idea will be, if you were to move F downward, right? The raise of this Q will be less. So this contact is based on the idea of volume. V1 equals to V2, whereby you will have surface area time with distance move equals to A2 D2 lah. You see, volume of liquid transmitted cannot be changes, ma. So you see, if I were to assume this is the amount of liquid that I push down, so maybe about this is similar, correct? So you will identify my D1 and D2 already. So this shouldn't be the same. See, the pressure applied on piston P is greater, right? Wrong also, because teacher already say it's supposed to be what? Same. So last option, the pressure applied on piston P is the same as the pressure experienced by the piston Q. Yeah. Okay, next one. Diagram 20 shows the shape of a candle flame when the candle is placed between X and Y plate. which are connected to extra high tension power. So which of the following is not, I see, not the conclusion that can be made based on the observation. Now they want the wrong one, not the conclusion. So of course you're supposed to know that what happened the moment you on this HT. HT is a very high voltage, it can be in kilovolt normally up to 4 kilovolt one kind of high. Then only you can see the effect. Okay, so first they will actually spread into two. So assuming this is negative plate, this is positive. So firstly, the candle flame will ionize the air, become positive and negative ion. Then the distribution, the member will split into two. But then bigger portion towards negative plate. Why? Because positive ion is heavier. So of course, you see positive ion attract to negative plate, like what I draw here. Then negative ion attract to the positive plate, like what I draw over here. Then positive ion have a larger mass, so it spread towards the negative plate, which is larger as well. C is correct also, but D, you see negative ion have larger mass, wrong already. Just our teacher already said positive ion have bigger mass, not negative ion. Okay, so they want not on the wrong one, so this D lah. 31. Which of the following does not affect the resistance of the copper wire? So as you all know, under the topic for resistance, factor affecting resistance, there is 4 factor, right? Which is what? Length of conductor, cross-sectional area, temperature, and also type of material. So like wire, yes. Elasticity is not the answer. Elasticity is under for spring one now. So that tends to confuse you with other quantities. So temperature, type of material, yes. Okay. Next one, this is under the concept of electromotive force and also internal resistance. So diagram 21 shows a graph of potential difference V against I of a dry cell. Which of the following is correct about a dry cell? So now this is the graph for you to find the internal resistance and also electromotive force. All right, so generally under this topic the formula EMF equals to V plus I little r, where R is internal resistance, E is the EMF lah, the electromotive force. Okay, now you can relate this formula with the idea of Y equals to mx plus C lah, but in simple, when you rearrange, you will know that the y-intercept is actually referred to EMF. And then the internal resistance or the gradient itself is actually negative internal resistance. So they want you to get the EMF. So from here to get EMF, you are getting this. This is EMF y-intercept. So it's supposed to be 3 lah. Now to get the internal resistance, again, you need to find the gradient now, but you have the negative first. So this is indeed a negative graph. So you negative 3 divided by 12. And you will get positive 0.25. So that's why the answer is D lah. Number 33, a television's label 220 volt, 500 watt is connected to an electrical supply of 220 volt. What is the amount of electrical energy consumed in 2 minutes? So under the electrical energy topics, you have a lot of formula. So for this one, energy consumption, the basic one, you have energy consumption equals to power time with the time. So if your power rating of the device is higher, of course, you use more energy. Same goes for if you use for a longer time. So power is in terms of watt, so that's why you have 500, and the time must be in terms of seconds, so 2 times 60, right? And then you calculate, and you're supposed to get 60,000 joule D. 34. Diagram 22 show a force act on the current carrying conductor in the magnetic field. The direction of force can be determined using by what rules? Okay, now this is the idea. They already tell you, you have the current carrying conductor. That means you will involve the idea of current. So if you're my student, I always tell you, you have this Momo's rule, correct or not? Right? Of course, no such rule lah. It's just that you see where is the location of Mo. Okay, so motto is applying the idea of catapult field. Dynamo applying the idea of electromagnetic induction, whereby you learn this in 4.1 and 4.2 respectively. So not to be confused, so every time you see the circuit, if there is a power supply, power source, then you will use left hand, that means left hand's rule. Like this one, current carrying conductor that I already mentioned, got current. If in the whole circuit you didn't see any power supply, and normally you will see galvanometer based on the experiment setup, then you use Fleming right hand's rule. Hopefully you all will use the correct hand. So I also show you all how to the force actually have upwards. So FBI. Force, B, magnetic field, you always from B, north to south, north to south. I is current, so dot means shoot out. So you point your middle finger towards you, out from the screen. Then you rotate north to south this way. So that's why your thumb is upward. So this is how you use your hand. The moment you fix your current ready, you only rotate like this. Or you fix your magnetic field, you only turn your current like this. So you don't twist your hand so much, then you cannot get the answer. 35. Diagram 23 shows a transformer. Which of the following method is used to increase the efficiency of the transformer above? So under the idea of transformer, indeed there is 4-way that cause energy to loss in the transformer, and there is 4-way for you to increase the efficiency right? So one is resistance of the coil. So to reduce the energy loss, what you do, you use low resistance, a good material which is copper or a thick wire. Then you can reduce the electric current by using laminated core. If you want to reduce the effect of this magnetization and demagnetization, because you need to keep on demagnetize. So you will use a better material which is soft iron core instead of normal steel core or solid core. Then lastly, to reduce leakage, you wind the secondary coil on top of primary coil. So hence, for this case, your answer, use solid iron rod, steel iron rod, thinner wire rod. You need to use stigma, right? We just say, use laminated soft iron core, yes, which is these two part. 36. How are electrons produced in a cathode ray tube? So generally, the cathode ray tube is to produce cathode ray. So therefore, to understand how cathode ray produced, you need to know two important terms. What is thermionic emission and what is thermionic emission and what is cathode ray? So thermionic emission is actually the release of electron from a heated metal cathode. So normally what you do, you heat up the filament. Okay, but when you heat up filaments, only electron is being produced on the surface. It's still not named as cathode ray yet, okay? So you only will have cathode ray when a beam of electron move at high speed. So for you to have better understanding, so when you heat using a small voltage, you will only have electrons. So what is the process? Thermionic emission. Electron already released. This is the process. Okay, but then if you to accelerate the electron at high speed, then they become what? Cathode ray. So to accelerate it, what you do, you need a very high voltage also, EHT. Now, that's why when you calculate in this topic, you have one calculations whereby this electric field, right, have been changed to kinetic energy half mv squared. So normally they want you to calculate the speed of the electron. Hence, you will have square root of 2 ev over m. So you careful with this voltage. This voltage is always referred to the high voltage, not the 6 volt. Next one. Diagram 24 shows a symbols represent an electronic component. What is the electronic component? So this is a triangle with a line. It is a diode. So how does capacitor look like? Equal sign. A resistor look like a square shape like that, a rectangle shape, okay? Or you can have this zigzag one. Same thing. Transistor, or you have a circle. You remember they must have 3-leg one. Okay, and one leg should have arrowhead. Then it's a transistor symbol. Okay, next, 38. What is the half-life of the radioactive material? Okay, this is a decay curve. To obtain the half-life, you look at the activity or amount of mass. So from 2000, half of it is how much? 1000. Then what you do the interpolations. Okay, go horizontal, go down. So it's 4. So it's structured, you need to be careful. You don't only write 4, but for what? 4 years. So the answer is A. 39, diagram 26. Show the formula introduced by Louis de Broglie to express the relationship between the momentum particle, this is referred to momentum P, and the wavelength lambda. So you have the formula lambda equals to Planck constant H divided by momentum. Based on the formula, what can you be concluded regarding the relationship of P and lambda? Since this Planck constant is a constant, and then you see they are per. So that means this wavelength, indeed, they are inversely proportional to momentum. That means inversely idea is just simple. Means if this quantity increase, the other one will be decreases. That's why I say inversely proportional. So the wavelengths is inversely proportional to momentum, correct? The answer is there already. Then momentum directly to wavelength, wrong already. They are not increase idea. The wavelength decreases linearly, also not the accurate term. The longer the wavelength, the greater the momentum. Wrong. Greater idea is referred to directly proportional. So if like paper 2, they ask your relationship question, you can use the way like what you see B or D if you have the increase way, or inversely proportional mean increase decrease. You can use either way to answer. No problem for relationship questions. Okay, then last questions. Diagram 27 shows a metal surface illuminated by a beam of light at a certain frequency. Electron can be emitted from the metal. Then this phenomenon is known as what? Okay, so basically this is called what? Photoelectric effect. So what does photoelectric effect means? Okay, let's recall back the definitions. Photoelectric effect is when the metal surface is illuminated by a beam of light at certain frequency. If the frequency is high enough, then electron can be emitted from the metal. And this frequency is also known as threshold frequency. Yeah, so teacher hope that by the simple explanations, you really will understand most of the questions over here, and you do learn some concept and recall back some formula definitions, and your concept is actually more firm and strong. Okay, so I will see you again in others video. Thank you.